Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show, and thank you for putting up with the brief pause. I apologize for being off camera. Let's do the intro. Not all stories are chronological, especially when considering the tale of Quentin Tarantino. Beautiful, pregnant, and deadly, the story of the bride begins in El Paso, Texas. Her quest for vengeance takes us to Pasadena after she crossed the Pacific, where she collected a blade that would cut God himself to take on the Crazy 88 in the first part of the fourth film by QT. Of course, the Fantasmagorium show is proud to present Bullets, Blades, and Babes as we discuss Kill Bill Volume 1. I am Scotty R37, Cat is on brain detail, and we are super jazzed to have Black Phillip Alvarez here, and Steve is the bass player for the 5, 6, 7, 8s. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good. Looking forward to it. Been waiting on this one.
Excellent. Yeah, I know you're a fan of Kill Bill, aren't you, Phil?
Yeah, definitely one up there is one of my favorite Tarantino films.
When was the last time you saw it?
About a month ago. I saw it on HBO Max. I watched both of them. Hold on one second.
Okay, is it in regular rotation for you as a Quentin Tarantino movie?
Yeah, I watch it all as much as I can. I mean, it's one of my favorites.
Which part? Do you usually go on the double bill, or do you have a preference on Kill Bill Volume 1 or Kill Bill Volume 2?
I'll watch one first, definitely. I mean, it's cool to watch them back to back, because then you get the whole retrospective of the films. Because they're to me they're two totally different films. So, one's all not Tarantino, and Volume 2 is totally Tarantino. So that's why I like to watch
Absolutely
it back to back. Feels like a whole experience. I kind of wish I would have watched the version that my good friend Cinema Globe sent us, but never got it. It's still in my rotation. That's the one I want to watch. So shout out to our good friend Cinema Globe.
Yeah, absolutely. I got an opportunity to check that one out too. It was really, really rad to see it all sort of edited together as a single film. Kat, when was the last time you got to see Kill Bill Volume 1?
Today.
And when you do watch, do you usually watch back to back, or just do you pick and choose?
It's only the second time I've seen the film. I think this is his worst movie.
Oh man! Break my heart, Cat. Don't break my heart. This is the one I've been looking forward to. All right, I love to hear what you have to say. There's nothing wrong with a little fun debate.
Well, and also, I just before we get rolling in, I did want to say a couple of things because the bass player would be rather upset if I didn't. I did want to say that the Fantasmagorium does have a website, www.fantasmagoriumshow.com, and you can go check that out, and I swear we're going to be doing something with it soon. If you are considering the sweater weather that is almost upon us, you can go to the phantasmagoriumshow.com/shop and grab yourself something to support the channel, help keep the lights on, and also something you can wash. And then also, if you don't want to wash anything, we do have www.streamelements.com/phantasmagoriumshow/tip. If you would just like to throw something in the jar, that would be greatly appreciated. Now that the business is out of the way, I also wanted to say ahoy to everyone in the chat. And thank you so much for being here. We appreciate all of your comments. Typically what we do on Bullets, Blades, and Babes is go through our initial thoughts and the rundown of the film, courtesy of Kat, and then we will definitely be addressing the chat. Once the summary is over, please, do not feel shunned or ignored. Trust us, we are going to be engaging with you, and we look forward to your comments. So stick around, watch the show, and we look forward to seeing those. But before we get into the rundown of... Oh, and also, I'm not wearing pants or a shirt. That's why I'm on audio only. I apologize. But not really, because, I'm free as a bird. How do you feel about Kill Bill 1 and 2 being collectively the fourth film by Quentin Tarantino?
Me?
Anyone.
Anyone, go ahead, Kat.
Well, yeah, this is definitely only half a movie, and like Phil said, it's the first one's not really a Tarantino movie per se. It doesn't have the sharp-witted dialogue. It doesn't have the well-rounded characters. It doesn't really even have much of a story because there's so many question marks. It's like, okay, what was the circumstances for the wedding massacre? Did they betray her? Was it justified? Who are these people? What's this about? And Uma Thurman said that, it's the character, we wanted her to be really scary in the first half. We didn't want you to get all the story until the second half. I'm like, okay. And she referenced Blondie from Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, played by Clint Eastwood, and I thought, well, I don't know if that's a comparison to make, because Blondie's a much more nuanced character. He doesn't just go around killing everybody. He makes partnerships, he makes deals, he runs scams, he has a quirky sense of humor, a sadistic sense of humor, and there's no question marks really about him. It's just like they're here, they're looking for treasure, whatever. Whereas in this movie, there's a whole mystery right up front as to what this is about, and seeing as her only concern is trying to kill everybody she can find, I didn't think there was really much to this character that made it interesting. And the people she was going after more one-dimensional. The whole thing felt like this one-dimensional affair that was style over substance. And when you finally get to the payoff, the crazy 88 sequence is like really wild, and the choreography is amazing. But I really didn't like that it cut to black and white very early in that scene, because the color palette for that location was amazing, especially with their black suits and her yellow just bouncing off of all the lighting there. But in black and white, it looks too saturated because the lights are so bright and it washes everything out. You don't get as much detail, and it's like waiting for it to come back to color. And it felt, this first half just feels like an empty nothing. Like, it didn't need to be as long as it is. It's like, did this really need to be split into two halves? I don't feel that it is. And even though he considers it one big movie, for the purposes of how they released it, since it's Volume 1 and then Volume 2, then I would say that Volume 1 is my least favorite Tarantino film for those reasons.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fair enough.
What?
Fair enough. Well, you can blame the MPAA for that crazy 88 scene being in black and white, by the way, because it was intentionally supposed to be originally supposed to be in a color.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that wasn't a Tarantino choice. It was a studio choice to avoid an NC-17 rating.
That's interesting, because it is a pretty violent movie, and a lot of the other stuff they do show. Granted, it's really stylized, like when you cut off a limb and then there's like a brief pause before you get like this of blood, and some of that was actually pretty funny. But okay, that is surprising to learn that.
And it is a bit cartoonish, so I don't know why the MPA.
Yeah,
it's too cartoonish, which is what I love about it. So what I love about the whole movie. It's very cartoonish and very stylized. And forget this was his first movie in like 6 years after Jackie Brown. So
Yeah.
Kill Bill was his next movie. Like, interesting choice for a movie, but I dug it. I consider it like the ultimate fanboy movie. So since Tarantino is, an ultimate fanboy, so I think that's why I appreciate it the most out of all of his other films.
Well, and I thought that this was like, this definitely really kicks off with, an unexplained action. Like, it kicks off with an unexplained action scene that is sort of jarring the first time I saw it, but luckily it does start off with something that hooks me as a Star Trek fan right off the bat, is when it says vengeance is a dish best served cold, old Klingon proverb. Oh, we lost Phil. He'll be back. Once you bring up Klingons, I'm like, yay! Quentin Tarantino's a Star Trek fan. And it's beneficial that Phil's not here because I know he doesn't like Star Trek. I'm done talking about Star Trek now, Phil. But yeah, you're welcome. But I was just like, oh, okay, so it's going to be a revenge movie, which is great. And you jump right into it. And again, not a chronological telling of the story as you find out through the movie. But Phil, do you think that Kill Bill 1 and 2 together are the fourth film, or do you consider them separate?
I consider them one movie, definitely.
Okay.
Especially like I said earlier, when I like to watch them back to back.
Yeah.
Because, and they're two totally different films, as I said. So, like two is definitely a Quentin Tarantino film, and like one is like this ultimate fanboy homage to every single genre you can think of. There's the Western, Kung Fu movies, the anime sequence of War Rainy Shi. So he pays homage to so many different film genres, and I think that's what I love the most about it. And his use of music in this film is fantastic. Like, oh my god.
Oh, the third act is basically just a music video of violence and awesome tunes.
I know, right? Just the way he utilizes so many music cues and just like that Ronder, when the Ellie driver goes to the hospital and it's just the use of music. And then the split screens, which is an homage to Brian De Palma films,
Oh, wow, yeah. Totally.
So, yeah, he pays so many different homages to different genres and stuff. So that you're like, wow. Like I say, it's like ultimate fanboy flick. So.
Well, and then that brings me to the next question before we get into the plot. There has been a discussion, and I'm not sure if it was Tarantino himself. I think it was, that Kill Bill would be a movie that the characters within the Quentin Tarantino universe would go see. So it is a movie that exists within, like Jules and Vincent would go and see Kill Bill. How do you guys feel about that particular interpretation?
I think they definitely would. Like I say, that they all eventually all of these films are connected, and so I can see Jules from Pulp Fiction going to go see it. Maybe the people from Jackie Brown go see it, and maybe it'd be like a double billing with the Grindhouse films.
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
And speaking of that, the Grindhouse films, and then From Dusk Till Dawn, you once again have Michael Parks as Sheriff McGraw, who shows up in this movie as well. Mm-hmm. So that is like another fourth wall breaking. Well, tying it all into the same universe. But yeah, you could say it would be a movie they'd all go to see, with the exception of the fact that Sheriff McGraw is in the movie. But
that's true.
Yeah.
Well, and we've already covered Dusk Till Dawn, so we've seen Sheriff McGraw die too. So
that's true.
It would be if you wanted to go with a chronology of it.
I can't remember. I think he died in Planet Terror. I think he got injured. I can't remember if he died
in Planet Terror.
He doesn't. No, I don't think he dies. No.
Yeah, I think he lived. Yeah, and he's also briefly in Death Proof. But so yeah, it's a good. Yeah, I could see them probably going to see this movie.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And I like that sort of separation and the the Tarantino verse and the different layers. I've always enjoyed that as adding depth to sort of any Quentin Tarantino movie, and being able to separate the ones written and directed by and the ones written by but not directed. There's a shuffling in there that I like, so you can open it up to your own interpretation, or you can take it at face value. It's up to you. You don't necessarily have to go behind the scenes to figure it out, but I liked it. And one of the through lines, which I'll point it out when we get there, I do love the product placement of certain items that show up along the way in this flick too. But without further ado, I suppose, shall we get into the sparse plot of Kill Bill Volume 1? Cat.
We're doing a recap?
Did you want to or no? It's not gonna take long.
Okay, so it begins with this black and white of her lying on the floor, and it's like a super close up. She's all bloody and all that. Bill pulls out a gun. She tries to tell him something. And he shoots her. I believe the next scene, because I'm already forgetting, is where she goes to see Veronica Green. If that's her name. Vernita Green, and she pulls up in the Pussy Wagon vehicle, which is like this Chevy pickup truck that's all bright yellow with like the red flames on it. And she walks up to the door and just kind of casually rings the doorbell. And Renita opens the door and she's kind of like, oh, and it's immediately a smackdown fight. And not long into the fight, the school bus shows up, her daughter gets out, and we'll just play this off as us being fun. So they hide the knives behind their back. The girl comes in. Her mom tries to blame it on her worthless dog, as she calls it. She's like, we have grown-up things to do, and eventually gets her to go back to her room. Figures, okay, I'll offer you coffee now, because apparently the bride is not going to be callous enough to kill the mother in front of the child. So they go into the kitchen, and she's like, oh, bye. I guess you going to kill me to get even? She's like, nah, getting even would mean I'd have to kill you, your husband, and your daughter, and then Bill. And so Vernita counters that and says, well, how about you meet me at the Baseball Diamond for tonight at 2:30 in the morning, dressed all in black. And she's going on about this and trying to distract her while she's holding a box of cereal conveniently named Kaboom.
I like that.
And she's got a loaded gun hidden in it and just fires and doesn't get the fatal shot she needed, and so then the bride kills her with a knife to the chest. And the daughter, Nikki, comes out, sees her mother lying dead, and the bride basically says, if you feel bad about this still when you grow up, you can come after me. I'll be waiting. And then she just kind of calmly leaves and gets in the car and into the pussy wagon, which then is totally inconspicuous, of course, and drives away. And that leads into the next flashback where we meet Sheriff McGraw 4.5 years earlier in El Paso, Texas. He comes to this chapel. There's been a gunfight. He immediately determines there were probably 4 of them. It was probably a professional mafia hit, and his sons ask him how he knows that, and they're talking about it, and he finds the bride, and they're like, yeah, we only call her the bride because we just kind of assume from the way she's dressed. We see the registry here. There's a name, Arlene Machiavellian, but it's a fake name. And he's like, oh, okay. And suddenly she kind of, well, she doesn't wake up, but she kind of like spits at him like a cough, and he realizes that she's still alive. She's transported to hospital, comatose for the whole time. She finally wakes up, finds that she's no longer pregnant. She's terrified. She then pretends to be comatose again when one of the orderlies comes in with his buddy, and he's like, "Here, I'll charge you money. You can hug her, but don't leave any marks. Don't try and strangle her, or punch her, leave it, anything like that." And he's like, "Okay." So he goes to leave, and he tells him, one more thing, blah blah. He's like, "Okay," and no sooner than the door shuts and the guy gets on top of her that she kills him, like bites his tongue out, and it's pretty bloody. And I'm surprised that the orderly, nobody heard the screaming going in there, but they didn't. And she ends up lying on the floor on the other side of the door, so that when the orderly comes back, she slashes his Achilles heel. He falls on the ground, and she starts smashing his head in the door, asking, "Where's Bill?" And he has no idea. He's like, "I don't know." And his name tag says Buck, and he's got the tattoo, the word fuck, on his knuckles. And apparently she, I guess, remembered him when, I guess, either maybe when she first got there, and he's like, "Oh, I'm Buck, and I'm going to fuck, blah, blah." And so she just decides to kill him anyway, and smashes him to death. She takes his keys, which says pussy wagon on it. And
hang on a second. So this reminded me of something this time around, and because I was sort of taken aback because it had been a while since I'd seen it. And I was like, this is one of the most disturbing, 4 years of being comatose and sexually assaulted by Buck and anyone that he's making money off of. And it reminded me of the audio commentary for the deleted scenes to Terminator 2, when there was the orderly who is assaulting Sarah Connor in that movie, and they took it out. But the reason that they had filmed it is that James Cameron wanted to make sure that they dug Sarah Connor as deep a hole as possible to try and get out of. And they took that out, and I was like, it looks like Quentin Tarantino was like, oh, that's the hole you were going to dig? I can dig deeper and find a deeper level of hell for the bride to get out of. And I thought, and it was like, oh, okay. And so you do see the progression of her getting out, and her legs have entropied, and I just thought it was, you put her as low as you possibly could. You've taken away her baby. I thought that Uma Thurman's performance when she looks at her hands to see how much time has passed, and the look of sheer terror in terms of her baby being no longer with her, and just absolutely devastated, as you would be. There's so much for her to be like, okay, I can see why she wants sweet, bloody revenge for what has been done to her. Anyway, so we get to the back of the pussy wagon where she has to have the wiggle your big toe, the only foot shot in a Tarantino movie that I didn't think was gratuitous.
She got some ugly ass feet too.
And we are.
That was also kind of funny when she's wheeling in the wheelchair to go out there, and when she finds the car, she has to actually stop to check the keys again to see if that's the car. I'm like, really? Because it says it, blazoned on the back of the car. And another thing, while she was comatose, this crazy lady came to kill her, one of the deadly vipers, and you're going to kill her with a lethal injection. She got a call from Bill, who didn't think it was very sporting to do that, and told her not to, and I imagine he'll regret that decision. She's in the wagon in the back. She pulled herself into the back seat of the car to try and get her feet moving again, and we find out that she wants to go to Okinawa, and that's where we see into this extended flashback sequence introducing us to Oren Nishi, which includes this really extended anime sequence talking about her whole upbringing and how her parents were murdered. How she basically, it's a long story of how she came to be leader of the Yakuza, culminating in this really neat scene where she's hosting this council of the other Yakuza bosses, and they're celebrating, they're drinking, they're laughing, they're having fun, and this one guy's just kind of does this big outburst, smacks his fist on the table, and smashes his glass, and I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, oh, this is disgusting. You how dare you, do this type, and blah, blah, blah. And they're all telling him to shut up. You need to be more respectful. And she's like, no, please, I want to hear what it is you have to say. And he's basically racist because, she's, half Chinese, half Japanese and American. And she's a woman. She shouldn't really be leading this. Right. And how dare she? And so she just immediately gets up, just kind of tiptoes at a fast pace down the table, whips out her samurai sword and decapitates him like nothing. Holds his, and the blood spurts out crazily in this like a water fountain.
Brings out like Shaw Brothers.
Yeah,
that's great.
She holds his severed head there. She's like, I'm gonna say this next part in English. If any of you bitches ever brings up my heritage again in a negative way, you are all gonna. This is what's gonna happen to you. And they're like, oh
cut your fucking head off.
Yeah, cut your fucking head off. And they're like, oh yeah, we get it and all that. And the anime sequence was pretty good, very well animated, much better than traditional anime because obviously they had a lot more money to put into it. And it was a pretty good sequence.
Yeah, to me, that's when the movie picks up. Is that once it hits the anime sequence, that's when the movie picks up. I don't care for like the first 45 minutes of it. If I'm being honest.
Yeah, I was somewhat half checking out what the anime thing was going on because it felt like they were trying to rush in all this character development in such a short time. Yeah, they did it in anime because it's they're trying to homage all sorts of different things here. Right. And so that's established. Then we finally cut back to the bride. She, in the course of 13 hours, it says, she was able to get back to walking again. She drives away, and that's when we understand that she went to go to Japan. So she goes to Okinawa, where we see Sonny Chiba. And he's the sword master, the swordsmith, and he's in this little cafe, a little restaurant, and she orders a sake. And one of the waiters or whatever there gives him shit, like a sake in the afternoon. It's like, go get that goddamn sake, getting mad at him. And he doesn't seem to know who she is at first or why she's there. But when she intimates that, here's the swords, and he wants her to choose one, she's like, no, I want you to make one. He's like, I'm done doing that. I don't do that anymore. It's like, well, considering who your apprentice was, referring to Bill and what he did. And then he's like, oh, shit. And then he kind of recognizes her and realizes what's going on. And so he agrees to make the sword. And a month later, they have the ceremony where he presents the sword. And she takes that with her as she goes to Tokyo and goes into the nightclub where this Orenishi is being welcomed by these two people. The people who run the place, one of them's dressed like Charlie Brown. And I was thinking that even before the joke. I guess the wife, and they're like nodding constantly and laying out their hands. Oh, welcome, welcome, ushering them up the stairs and into the service room. And they're getting all belligerent. One guy orders like 4 pizzas. He's like, we don't serve that here. It's like, I don't care. Go get the pizzas. Got the real life band, the 5, 6, 7, 8s, playing American songs down below. And then the bride just kind of walks in and goes up to the bar, and she sits there, takes her motorcycle helmet off, and nobody seems to recognize her at first. And then she sneaks into the back and changes out of her outfit and is waiting for the assistant of Orenishi, American girl, to show up downstairs so she can get a hold of her. And she does, marches her sword point out by the dance floor. And then and before she even says anything, Orenishi just has like, I don't know if it's a spidey sense or what, but she suddenly knows that there's something up, and she throws a little knife with a tail wrap around it through the door. Mm-hmm. And then that's when she finally, when the bride shouts for Orenishi to come out, she does. And without much hesitation, the bride just cuts off the girl's left arm. She's bleeding and spraying everywhere and screaming her head off. And then everybody starts panicking and fleeing for their lives. And then Orenishi is very calm about this, not really bothered by it, and she just kind of tasks one of her bodyguards, Miyaki, to go deal with it. So he jumps down below and goes into fight. She quickly dispatches him, and she tells the rest of them, kill that bitch. So they go at it, and you have some more cool kung fu fighting, and she easily dispatches them. And then her sadistic right-hand hit woman shows up. And we see a neat little flashback with her where she's sitting at the bar with this guy. She's asking, do you want to have sex with me? He's like, what? And he's like, no. She's like, are you sure? Right. And she stabs him with the sword. And he's like, oh, that's funny, since I'm the one who penetrated you. And like, ha ha. And she's dressed like this schoolgirl outfit as she's marching down the stairs holding a mace with a bunch of spikes on it. And they get into this extent. And the bride initially gives her a chance to leave. and the schoolgirl kind of laughs that off. Oh, that's not very good begging. And she's like, well, I'm not begging. And then they get into this extended fight where she actually gets a few good licks in, disarming the bride of the sword, smacking her in the jaw, and smacking her in the chest a little bit. And eventually the bride does some backflips, and the sword ends up ringing the mace so that it wraps around a post, but not before the chain wraps around her neck. So then he starts pulling it to try and strangle her. And she ends up getting a hold of one of the broken pieces of table that the mace had previously broken in the fight that has nails sticking out of it. And she just smacks Gogo in the head. And Gogo falls over dead. She gets the mace off, walks forward. And then finally you hear all the cars showing up. And Oren Ishii is like, oh, you didn't think it would be that easy, did you? She's like,
you know
for a
what?
second there,
I kind of did.
Yeah, for a second I kind of did. And then in marches the guy, I can't remember his name, but he's the leader of the Crazy 88, and they all come in.
Johnny Moe.
And we get to this lengthy sequence. It's a 7-minute scene where it's just all balls to the wall fighting, highly stylized. Because of course, if this were a real fight, they'd probably all bum rush her at the same time, and that'd be it. But she ends up leading him up the stairs, and like Phil said, it goes black and white for ratings, which I didn't know that. That explains a lot. Eventually, they get upstairs into this back room where it turns back to color, but then the power gets pulled by the lady who's like the other owner.
The other owner, yeah.
Charlie Brown, and so she pulls the power, and it's all dark in the room, but you see that the back wall is all blue with a little grid pattern on it, and then you have the neat fight and just their silhouettes, which is kind of cool, and it culminates with the bride marching up to this kid and chopping his sword to pieces. And then she's like, and she grabs him by the scarf of his neck and then starts beating him with the sword. And she's like, this should tell you to not play around with the fucking Yakuza. Go back home to your parents. And then the kid runs away like a coward. And then she walks back outside, or back out onto the balcony to survey all the damage. And you see just how many people she's like either killed or maimed. And she orders all of you who are still alive, leave. But your limbs, if you've lost any, leave them here. They're mine now. And then she's out, all except for you, pointing back to the assistant. So the others are fleeing and trying to leave. And then the bride goes outside, where you have a beautifully shot showdown at night in the garden with snow everywhere. And Ishii says this dumb line like, "Oh, little white Caucasian girl thinks she could play the role of samurai or whatever." I'm like, bitch, please, you just dealt in the Crazy 88. What are you talking about? So they get in like this old classic samurai fight where it's not fast moving, it's like one move at a time type thing, and the bride ends up winning, cutting off the top of her head because she didn't believe that she got the Hatano sword, but she told her, it's like, oh, blasphemy, it can't be. Even when she saw the logo, she wasn't sure of it, or when she saw the emblem on the blade. And so when she cuts the top of her head off in a stylized motion, because it doesn't clip the brain, it's just perfect scalp cut, which would have to be cut around for that, but she cuts it off, and then she's like, wow, that really is a Hatano sword. And then she falls over dead. We then cut to the bride leaving, and she's driving away, and she parks on the side of the road and pulls the assistant out, I bet she's put some sort of tourniquet on her arm. And initially we just see her throw her out of the trunk of the car, and she rolls down the hill, and you hear her speeding off, and she's saved by the hospital early. And we cut to Bill talking to Sophie in the hospital, and she apologizes for her betrayal, and he's like, what did you tell her? And then we see a flashback of her in the trunk of the car being asked these questions. And at first she was defiant. Oh, I'm not going to tell you anything. And she's like, well, you are going to tell me, or I'm going to chop something off. And trust me, everything I chop, you are going to miss. And so she presumably told her everything. And Bill says, did you tell her does she know her daughter's still alive? And then it cuts to black, and that's the end of the movie. And as Scott said, it's also told out of chronology, because this whole Japanese sequence, this whole extended second half of the film, is the first person on her hit list. After that, she goes back to California. It goes back to Pasadena to kill Vernita, and wherever she left the pussy wagon to go and do that. So that's the first movie.
Yes.
And yes, the bride is a badass, no doubt about it. The fight choreography is amazing. I just don't think there's enough nuance with that character, like she was saying with Blondie, to get really into it. Because, yeah, they do a good job of getting you to care about her plight, but because there's so many question marks about what is this about, I wasn't really... Because, again, the horrible stuff that happens at the hospital is more to do with Buck and the orderly and the sick stuff he was doing than whatever was up with Bill and the Deadly Vipers, and the fact that Bill didn't want to kill her. And I'm like, well, what's this all about? Like, why'd they betray her? What's going on? If she's as badass as she is, why would he want to get rid of her? And so I just found that type of stuff was just kind of bugging me while I was watching it, and I just kind of eager to get to part 2. It was like, yeah, like Phil said, this is definitely a love letter to those old 70s martial arts films and anime and all that kind of stuff, but I was never really into that, which is why I wasn't as into this movie. And so, I mean, the only sequence that felt really Tarantino was when she goes to Vernita's house and the little girl shows up in the middle of the fight and the way they're talking in the kitchen, and that felt a bit Tarantino. The rest of it, I don't know. And it does have a brief little montage closing alluding to who she's going to go after next as well. So it's like, because it does end very abruptly in a hard cut to black. It's not styled like a movie that's supposed to be cut in half. Like, you could tell if he had his way, he probably would have released it as one, 3.5, 4-hour movie or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's like 4 hours together, back to back.
Yeah.
Well, and I know that they did do a release of the whole bloody affair. I think that there was a home video release on DVD. I don't know if it went to Blu-ray, but there was a whole bloody affair that was released as one film. And the only thing it misses out is on the prologue at the beginning of Volume 2. But I like the bracketing, if you will, of starting it, as you said, as more of a Tarantino movie with Vernita Green, and then once you get to the opening of Kill Bill Volume 2, then we're back to Tarantino. Like, once we're back to America, it's more of a Tarantino story. Right. But I remember in the publicity for this film, he was calling it an Eastern as opposed to a Western.
Yeah, a Western, right. It was just total homage to basically Kung Fu cinema and all those other exploitation films that were released on the East side, the East Coast, so to speak.
Well, and again, as you mentioned, Phil, the Japanese version of the film is in full color throughout. It doesn't have that MPAA editing, and I think I think it's the color version in the whole bloody affair, although I could be wrong. But I would be so interested in seeing how that goes. If it's available, I'd have to check eBay or wherever I'd be able to find it. But again, Cinemagult did a great re-edit of the whole thing, and it is great seeing it all as one long film.
Right, I still need to watch it. Sorry, Cinemagult. Promise to watch it one of these days.
Now, in terms of returning actors, if not characters, Buck is played by one of the ATF agents from, or DEA agent from Jackie Brown. The trucker who gets his tongue bitten out is the guy from Death Proof, who they leave Mary Elizabeth Winstead with when they're test driving the car before hilarity ensues. Then also, again, the great Sonny Chiba doing a good job. Doing a great job. I really... Oh, you say arigato the way we say arigato. Very entertaining. And also the is it Gordon Liu? Who he plays Johnny Moe. Outstanding. Also, I thought a great performance by Lucy Liu.
Lucy Liu, right. Rainy.
Nice to see Daryl Hannah doing something out of the ordinary, being one of the most sadistic, and I think it'll be great to see her get her comeuppance in Volume 2. But once we get to, and a lot of this is a lot of this is set up for Volume 2. Right. But that third act, once you get the speech by Oren and the going from Okinawa to Tokyo with the Green Hornet theme, followed by the first instance of Battle Without Honor and Humanity, which has been homaged, parodied in so many other films, from Transformers to Kung Fu Panda to Team America. Nobody But Me during the giant bloodbath in the club. Mm-hmm. Everything about it is absolutely off the hook. The violence, I remember when we were talking about Jackie Brown and how after Pulp Fiction, and he made Jackie Brown, and Tarantino fans were saying, well, this isn't the mind-blowing Tarantino that I was expecting. And his quote was, I'll blow your mind next time. I want to take something a little bit more paced and tell a story with characters this time. Next time I'll blow your mind. And I don't think he let us down with Kill Bill with the ultra violence that was promised in the next film.
Right.
It is cartoonish.
Very cartoonish.
But great. But I thought, again, it was fantastic. I was definitely taken by it. And I think it's one of the greatest cliffhangers in cinematic history. Just knowing when you start the movie with her saying, "Bill, it's your baby," bang, and you see her head shot. And at the end, it's like, does she know that her baby is still alive? And it's like, what?
Yeah, that's a big plot point in the next movie too. So
absolutely, with one of the greatest superhero speeches of all time. But we'll get there when we get there next week.
right.
And also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention when the bride arrives in Tokyo on the conveyor, like the moving sidewalk, and there's a giant ad for Red Apple cigarettes.
Red Apple. Mm-hmm.
That was awesome. I feel like Chris Farley on the Chris Farley show. Just like, remember that? That was awesome. And then there was one more thing, but I forget. But so I guess to start off with, I would ask, do you think it's better than Destiny Turns on the Radio?
I never saw that one. So
oh no,
I'll let Kat take that one.
I mean, in terms of filmmaking, in terms of cinematography and choreography and staging, yes.
Okay.
Characters, I mean, Destiny Turns on the Radio didn't really have much going for the characters, albeit it was a bit more entertaining than I thought it would be. That I found it was probably more enjoyable than this. I mean, because again, Kill Bill, like, there's a reason Cinema Gulp did the whole bloody affair, or edited his own edit of it, and that's because it's much better than watching Volume 1 as its own thing, which, again, this released in October 2003, and then there was another, 6 months until...
6 months later, right?
Yeah, until they did the sequel, or until the sequel came out. So as one movie, I can't remember when I first saw it. I didn't see it in theaters, but I watched it, and it's like, I remember how iconic a lot of the scenes are. Again, the character of the bride, the Crazy 88, that stuff. But I didn't have any inkling or desire to see Volume 2, and I didn't get around to seeing that until watching Cinema Gulp's edit of the whole bloody affair just a couple of years ago. It was the first time I saw Volume 2. And it's like, oh, okay, and we'll get to that and my thoughts on that one next week. But I mean, this is this one in terms of what's better. I mean, yeah, Destiny Turns on the Radio is a bad script, but has things going for it like Tracy Walter and the tacky Vegas settings and some of the whatever. But I don't know, that's almost like a non-comparison because one's a Tarantino movie, the other isn't. But
No, I'm sort of lobbing that one up so that I could feel better about liking this movie so much. I'm doing it for Phil and myself.
Right? No. I mean, I can understand all the criticism of Kat and everybody else in the chat saying. I mean, this is only Quentin Tarantino's fourth movie in 6 years, and you're like, this is the movie he chose to do. And I mean, I still love it. Like how it was different. It started out as a typical Tarantino movie, so that's what had me worried a little bit. Like, okay, and then once it hits the anime sequence, that's when it really picked it up for me. But, I mean, I thought that opening fight sequence was kind of weak, and I didn't care for Vivica A. Fox's acting. So. Other than that, yeah, it's just still a very well-made movie. Like, it's an homage. It's a typical fanboy movie, as I said before. That's one thing I love the most about it.
Well, and I enjoyed, because even with the reflection at the end where it's like, you didn't think it was going to be that easy, did you? And I thought that was sort of a nod to the beginning of the film when really the Vernita Green fight, aside from the tussle at the beginning, Nikki comes home, and then the fight just sort of ends abruptly with the serial, the kaboom. And so when you get to the end and it's like, oh, this is gonna be a lot tougher. So I like that, and so maybe it's a little bit of a respite that she gets to go after Vernita next, and it's not that hard. Then I guess the next thing that I wanted to ask is, based on the fact that we have a strong female lead, and the two villains that we encounter are the two members of the Viper Assassination Squad are women. And all of the men in the film are horrible in one way or another, including Hattori Hanzo, because Bill was the person who assisted in training him. Woke or not, is this the most woke of the Tarantino films?
No, not even close.
No?
No, I don't think so.
Not even close. The actual definition of term woke doesn't even apply to this movie.
Oh, why?
Because woke is about pointing out things of racial oppression and racism and stuff like that, not about, female empowerment or any of that kind of thing, number one. Number two, no. Just no.
No, Scotty, no.
Just no. All right.
Next subject.
Yeah, why bringing that up? Next point.
Oh no, I'm just playing around. This is the downside of me not being on camera. You can't tell that I'm chuckling to myself the entire time. I don't think it is either, but I like pointing these things out to see what kind of hornet's nest I can stir. But yeah, we do have quite a few people in the chat. Do we want to? Again, this is sort of a whirlwind of an action movie, a fanboy violence extravaganza. The anime was beautiful, and it sort of took me aback when I saw it in theaters. I didn't expect much of a recap on the film, just because there isn't that much plot, there isn't much characterization. It's more of a force of nature against or towards the bloody revenge that the bride is after. What did you guys think of the sort of censoring of the bride's name in the beginning with Bernita Green?
That was interesting. I wasn't sure why they didn't want the audience to know that, because if she's fine letting other characters know it, then it's like, because she told the little girl and she left the little girl alive, not bothered by the fact that she knew her name. So it's like, why are they censoring it for the audience?
I think that was like an homage to the Street Fighter films, because in the Street Fighter films you never know what the character's name is. So if you've ever seen like Street Fighter films or even a Sister Street Fighter, you never know what the name of the character is. So I think, they beep it out because they don't want you to know what her name is. So until the second movie.
Yeah, and yeah, I didn't really understand why it was edited out, because even when it's revealed that her name is Beatrix Kiddo in the next movie, that name doesn't really, well, yes, spoilers. Like what is I don't know why that was a reveal, but don't question the auteur, I suppose.
Maybe they wanted you to just think of her as the bride, because he knew there was going to be a 6-month lapse between the first and second film.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and again, setups and payoffs and whatnot. I think it is. There aren't that many movies that are just two duologies, if you will. And I loved the cliffhanger at the end of this, and it did absolutely intrigue me to get into the second installment. And also, on a complete tangent, I used to live in an apartment with 12-foot ceilings, and a friend of mine worked at a theater, or no, his girlfriend at the time worked at a theater, and there was one of those giant lobby banners, like a vertical lobby banner with the bride holding the Hattori Hanzo sword for Kill Bill Volume 1. I don't have it anymore because I wouldn't have ceilings that high anymore anyway. It would be useless. It was awesome to have, and that man is not in the chat today, but comes into the chat from time to time here on the Fantasmagorium show. That is Gundel Wintelbaum, and so I wanted to thank him if he happens to check this out in the replay, or if he's here now just a lurking. And if you are just a lurking, thanks. Did you guys want to get to rankings before we got to the chat?
Yeah, we got to give it bullets.
We got to give it bullets. Phil, you are our guest. Be our guest. Put your ranking to the test.
Solid 8 bullets for me.
8 bullets.
Mm-hmm. What do you give it, Scotty?
I give it 7. No, I'm gonna give it a 7.5. I'm gonna give it a 7.5.
Yeah, 7 sounds like you don't like it. I'm just kidding.
Oh, I'll give it 5.
Wow.
That's fair. That's fair.
I
understand all the criticism of this movie, because it's very fast paced, and it's hard to keep track of at times. So I can understand why some people don't really care for it. So, and that's fine. Well, yeah, this because it was so different from his other movies. That's probably why I enjoy it so much. Especially
Well, and I think
compared to
that's
Volume 2. So
well, and Volume 2 is much more paced. I was surprised. This is also a Tarantino movie that is under 2 hours, which is sort of a pleasant surprise, especially after having gone through Django and Hateful Eight. This wasn't a marathon. Although I would be
I didn't really find it fast paced. I thought this movie was still, average pace.
really.
I felt the runtime because there wasn't enough going on in the movie. It was like, her just trying to kill everybody. And so I was like, Mike, are you going to give us any other plot points as to why any of this is happening? Is there anything else to her character besides I'm just going to show up and kill everybody? Nope, okay. And so I was kind of, checking my watch. Let's get moving. And then when the Japanese part picked up, that's where the movie picks up a bit.
right.
Well, yeah, and yeah, the third act is absolutely full tilt boogie.
Oh yeah. Plus, I've heard that if Tarantino knew that the studio was going to have them split the film in two films or volumes, that he would have totally made the film a totally different way and edited it totally different to like combine more of the two to make them. That's why the first one we saw all over the place, and then the second one makes more sense because he actually had time to put it together more. So that's why it's good. That first one's kind of like all over the place.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go and first things first say hello to everybody. Well, you know what? I'm not gonna say hello to everyone. Sure. Let's say hello to everybody in the chat so far. Ashley Lynn said. Ashley Lynn Gaia Storm has a show. She has a channel. Go make sure to go and subscribe on Ashley Lynn's My Bad. And she says, "Don't be late today, Scotty. Love ya." And luckily, I was not late, but I am hiding behind an avatar. I apologize. I'm having internet issues. I am wearing clothes. I'm just joking about that. This is all. I swear. Exactly. You'll have to speak up. I'm wearing a towel. Hello to Stephen Ransom in the chat. And Stephen says, Kat is a harsh critic. Well, and
I don't think she was harsh.
yeah,
That's a valid.
giving it a 5. Giving it a 5 is not the harshest I've seen Kat. And Kat, you're on Flickster, right?
No.
Oh no! What? Okay, sorry. You just reached a milestone on your.
No, I'm on
Letterboxd. Pardon me. I got my websites mixed up. How many reviews do you have kicking?
Well, not reviews, but films that I've logged, and these different films that I've logged probably have a lot more. 1,300.
Which is incredible.
Wow.
So, if anyone would like to see the qualifications of Catherine, they're there. So, let's see. Who else do we have? Stephen Ransom again says the anime sequence was done by the same artist that did the kid part of the Animatrix. That's his style, not a budget thing. Also, I think the animation is allowed to show an 11-year-old. Yes, that's true. There were, well, yeah. Also, you know what? It would have been, well, and also I think it would have revealed the bloodbath a little early. Like the House of Leaves. I forget what kind of leaves. But instead of revealing that early, you sort of got it stylized, and it's like, okay, they're not going to do this at the end in live action, and they did. No. And that was sort of mind blowing for me. Canadian Spider-Man is here. Ahoy, Canadian Spider-Man. Catherine pronounces sake very well, in my opinion. Nice. Apparently Uma's Japanese isn't great. It was good enough that I couldn't tell Japanese people told Canadian Spider-Man otherwise.
Sake.
Good. Very good. Anti-Derivative Jill is here. Ahoy, Anti-Derivative Jill. Everyone should go and subscribe to Jill's channel as well. She's doing so many Star Trek things, and she is also she does her original series, Star Trek: The Original Series reviews on Tuesdays, and Open Topic on Fridays, and it is a blast. She's been nice enough to have me around on there myself. And so it's good to see you, Jill. And wait, ditto everything. Ditto everything Kat said. However, the music was great, and I love the animated sequence. So that keeps me from keeps the rating from going down too much. Definitely my least favorite too. Tricks is for kids. I liked the Tricks is for kids.
Yeah, I don't get that. That was a weird.
Tricks are for kids.
Like, why? It's like I thought that was kind of cringy, but I don't know.
I thought it was also somewhat of a play on Beatrix, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, that was kind of a little Easter egg for what her real name.
Yeah, that's what it's referring to but they don't tell us that's her name in the first half of the movie in the first movie for 6 months. So the line just kind of sits there like, what? Like Tricks are for kids. Like what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
Silly rabbit. Tricks are for kids. I'm like, okay.
Right.
Jill goes on to say, I didn't like her killing that man just for agreeing to sex. I'd have rather he'd done something to deserve it. I know they were establishing her as insane, but senseless violence is boring to me. Fair enough.
Men having sex with her for 4 years, and who knows? I mean,
well, and
they treated her for what, diseases or whatever. If she gets VD, yeah.
Oh no, I never even thought of that.
No, I think she's talking about the guy that Go-Go kills. When they're sitting at the bar and she's like, "Do you want to have sex with me? You want to sleep with me?" And he's like, he's unsure at first, but then he's like, "Yeah," and that's when she stabs him just simply for agreeing to it. But because that's establishing, like she says, establishing how insane Go-Go is as a character.
Oh, okay, she's talking about Go-Go. Okay,
yeah, she didn't agree to. She didn't agree to sex with the bride didn't agree to that with anybody else, but yeah, so that's Go-Go.
I was with the movie, Jill goes on to say, I was with the movie until she went up against all those warriors. Come on now, that's too ridiculous. Is she Neo from The Matrix 2?
Yes.
You know what, and I think it's just fulfilling the promise of the ultra-violence that was given after people had complained about the slow nature of Jackie Brown. But again, I would say, obviously, it's by far the most violent of any of the Tarantino movies.
It was another homage to Hong Kong cinema, because there's always sequences where the fighter's always taking on hundreds of guys, and all in 1 5-minute sequence. So I think that was another homage to the Street Fighter films, another kung fu films.
Well, exactly, and sort of that unbridled ridiculousness and the frenzy of violence. I think that was, I don't know, I enjoyed it. I rewound it this time as well. I just love the song. I love the music throughout that entire thing, the choreography. Oh, and I forgot to bring up Zoe Bell, because Zoe Bell this is the first collaboration with Zoe Bell, I think.
Yeah, she was stunt double for Uma Thurman.
Mm-hmm.
You can't see one of the scenes, by the way, but you gotta look really close.
And Jill says, at that point, Kill Bill went from being a movie to being a video game.
I'm okay with that.
And there we go. Great rundown of the entire plot, Kat. As always.
That's the quickest rundown I've ever heard her do.
Well, and again,
time, but
there's not a whole lot of.
I know it's not a lot of plot. I get it. So.
Well, exactly. Like that's go kill Vernita, get the Hattori Hanzo sword, fight the crazy 88, and we're good.
And that's it. Yep. Find out her daughter's still alive, and scene in credits.
Exactly. Stephen Ransom's here. Hey, man. Quentin gives a strong tribute to old Hong Kong cinema. The dialogue and action are on point. Yeah.
I've been saying.
Yep.
I'm with you on that. Stephen goes on to say, so much for a female lead being an instant success with a female audience. Kat and Jill did not identify.
Oh, God. Stephen Ransom.
And character, I just think I like her a lot more in the second one than in the first one.
Well, yes. Well, you do flesh out the story much more, and also you don't get to see David Carradine in this one as Bill. He is sort of just the Phantom Bond villain, almost like Blofeld, if you wanted to elevate it to that. You never see, it's just his hand, his sword. You get to see the sort of out of focus when he shoots the bride in the head at the in the flashback. But Cinema Gulp is here. Ahoy! Nice to have you here, sir. I think Cinema Gulps is the definitive cut. Thanks, Scotty. And Phil also said so, and I think that, or no, Phil hasn't seen it, but Kat also said it's the only time, or the first time that she had seen, right? The first time you'd seen Volume 2?
I'll probably finally watch Cinema Gulp's version, finally. So then I'll let you know on Volume 2.
Stephen Ransom says the sword maker and his partner were a part of Japanese TV and film. I think they were cameoing as themselves. Certainly a reference.
Well, the sword maker, Hatano, played by Sonny Chiba. So, and he was a martial artist, made swords and stuff. So in a way, it's kind of a cameo as himself, even though he has a different name because he's the character for the film.
Mm-hmm. Did Sonny Chiba ever play Zatoichi?
I don't know.
Neither do I. I thought maybe he had done one Zatoichi, but I'm not sure. If you know in the chat, please let me know.
I just don't
Jill is in agreement with Kat, 5 out of 10, for the reasons that they share.
That's a 10 from them both.
Son of a Red Shirt, ahoy. Hey, Son of a Red Shirt, how are you doing? I thought the sword maker was legendary Japanese actor Sonny Chiba, possibly most famous for his Street Fighter series, and rightly so, as it is possibly the darkest representation of anti-heroism. Yeah. Actually, it's been a long time since I've seen the first Street Fighter. I don't think I've seen all of them, but I did enjoy the first one when I picked it up at a Zellers in Canada. Jill says, only the little girl assassin is woke for killing men just for breathing. The rest of the movie is not woke, just underdeveloped in plot and character. Is it an exploitation movie then?
Yeah.
As a single film, yeah, because it's just called Carnage and again homaging all those old kung fu movies. Except I find with those kung fu movies, there's still a story, and they finish it. Sometimes, I mean, it kind of reminds me of the old. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but the Samurai trilogy from the 50s, like Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. It's like this old 6-hour epic or 6 or 8 hour epic or something, and it's kind of like this, where they just tell you part of the story and then kind of abruptly ends, and then you move to the next part, it ends, and that kind of thing. But I feel that given what Volume 2 is versus what Volume 1 is, that they could have done this as a 3-hour movie. And I didn't feel the need to split it, which is why I like the Cinema Gulp cut of the whole of his version better than watching them two separate. Granted, it's still very long and excises the prologue. I think there's plenty of places in this first movie you could have cut it down a bit, because I think the pacing. I mean, granted, Part 2 is about half-hour longer than Part 1. I think it's streamlined a bit more, because you do get a lot more of story and character development, all that stuff, and more of the revenge killing in the sequel than you do in this one. Like they said, they wanted this movie to just be showcasing her as a scary character, and it's like, well, I mean, you're killing all of these mostly no-name people because we don't know literally nothing about them, so it's like, whatever. It's like they say, your greatest hero is only as good as your best villain. And I feel that most of these characters are like stock characters that she's killing so far in Volume 1, which is why I was like, So.
Okay. Like, I suppose I enjoy, well, and when we get, perhaps next week, Phil, are you going to join us next week again for Volume 2 so we can sort of round out the whole bloody affair?
Definitely.
Excellent. No, but I think that once we get to the end of Volume 2, seeing the entire story at completion, if there's enough payoff in Volume 2 to justify the sort of thin plot of Volume 1.
Well, it's kind of like, I feel that I would have probably been reeled in more if the movie had actually started at the wedding, and you'd actually gotten to see her kind of enjoying the wedding and going into it for a little bit, and then had the massacre kind of just come out of nowhere.
Right.
because the fact that you're being shown this after it's already happened, you don't get to see the horror and the shock of that to really feel the slight. And the horrible stuff that happens at the hospital is because of the orderly Buck. It's not because of Bill and all these other characters that she's primarily focused on. So that's why I didn't really. It's like, yeah, kill Buck, he's a prick. But then the others, it's like, I still don't know what this is about. Like, is it? She's is of the opinion it's a betrayal. The others are like, well, we're not really a part of this group anymore. We went our separate ways, da da da. But we still don't know what it's about. And it's like, I haven't really felt the slight from them so much. Like, yeah, she's lying there and it's horrible, but it's yeah, we'll get to it with volume. I mean, volume 2 I think is much better. So
Well, and I'm looking forward to checking. Almost just punched in second volume 2 right after, and I was like, it's not gonna be fresh in my mind. I'm gonna have to wait, which is exactly the way that it was the first time. When I saw 1 and 2, I saw both in theaters, and it was I thought both were great. And actually, I think that the wait the first time was underwhelming. I sort of prefer the first one to the second one, but when we revisit it next week, I'll have to reassess.
I'm surprised that there's not like say an unrated version where they fix the color for the Crazy 88 fight, because you would think that, with MPAA they do that for theatrical releases, but once it's home video, you're free game to do pretty much what you want. So I'm kind of surprised that that's not that the original intended version isn't the primary one out there that you could buy or see. It just goes to the default version where it cuts to black and white. Because I figure Tarantino definitely has clout to change it if he wants to.
Yeah, that's why it's called The Whole Bloody Affair, because it's the whole movie all in one big movie.
One go. Yeah.
In color. And that sequence is in color. That's why it's called The Whole Bloody Affair. So but it's not a bit. I don't think it's ever going to be released here in America. I think you can only get the Japanese version.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the Whole Bloody Affair available in an HMV once, and I never picked it up, and it was the only time I ever saw it, and it's been lost to time for me ever since.
Probably very poor quality.
Thank you so much, Cinema Gulp. Very much appreciated. Cinema Gulp says, you are correct. First, Zoe Bell go as a stunt person for a QT stunt person. One of the best collaborations that most people don't even think about. And that's where I first found out about Zoe Bell. Or actually, I should rephrase. I found out that Zoe Bell was in this when she was in Death Proof. And it was like, oh no, Zoe Bell's been a part of this since, has been part of the Quentin Tarantino verse for a while. And then also, if you'd like to, and I think you should, because there are hours and hours in the Cinema Gulp library, you should go and check out the Cinema Gulp channel. Fantastic group of people putting out awesome content ever since the internet was started, really, I think. And I do apologize for bringing up the Cinema Gulp edit of Kill Bill 1 and 2. It's kind of like, remember when they had, Topher Grace did an edit of the Star Wars prequels that was only screened once for people and no one was ever going to see it? I feel like that's how I'm talking about this, because no one else is ever going to be able to see this.
And
he gives it to himself.
Regarding Zoe Bell and that partnership, she also had bit roles in Hateful Eight and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. In addition to that person in those films.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And Dave travels through time. Channel 2 is here. Hey, Dave.
What's up, Dave?
Exactly like a Phantom Scotty. Makes him very mysterious in this, which I like.
Yeah, they do keep Bill shrouded, and I like how they filmed him too. Like when he first calls, what's her name, Daryl Hannah at the hospital to tell her not to kill the bride, and it's like a close up on a profile shot of his hand. And you see the ring that he has. He's kind of stroking the top of the sword as he's just kind of sitting there talking to her. I'm like, oh, that's great. And then when he's with Sophie at the end, and he's just kind of patting her shoulder, stroking her hair, and she's all really afraid. I'm like, this is really good for building up the character.
Well, and also this is the first appearance of Julie Dreyfus as Sophie Fatale, and she reappears in Inglourious Bastards as a concubine to one of the Jill says, I still haven't seen Kill Bill Part 2 yet. I may like Part 1 more after watching Part 2. Well, yeah, that's a possibility. And again, you have to. I think,
Yeah,
like, I know.
Cinema Gulp Edit makes it work because you see the whole thing as one movie as it's intended, and it works better. It's just, granted, you still have to have the patience to get through the first hour, 45 minutes or so before they start reeling out that story and character. But, which is kind of interesting as well, because like they said, they split it in half, not just because the commercial aspects of it, but they wanted you to think of the bride as a really scary person for a while before they told you the rest of her story. So if you see it all at once for the first time, that gives a decidedly different impression. But at this point, whether you've seen the film or not, I think you're familiar with the bride as a character because it's just been in our pop culture zeitgeist for, almost 20 years now.
Mm-hmm. And Cinema Gulp goes on to say, Phil, you can watch it for $19.99.
What's what?
The Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, the Cinema Gulp edit.
Well, I have it.
Do you already have it? You haven't watched it yet? Come on, man.
No, I just haven't watched it.
Okay.
Shh, don't tell them.
Oh, I won't. It's just between us.
Wink, wink.
We should have a pay-per-view watch-along. Get a bunch of people together and watch the whole, the Gulp edit. That would be great if we can finagle something like that. It would be awesome.
With all the channels, that would be good.
Yeah.
Oh, and Cinema Gulp says Volume 2 is much better.
Yeah, I agree. For the longest time, I liked 1 more than 2, but over the years, I've appreciated 2 more than 1.
Well, I am looking forward to I think the last time I saw Volume 2 was when Ben shared the Gulp edit, and yeah, I really enjoyed that. But again, that's sort of the splicing together of it because of the amazing editing skills that you do. Canadian Spider-Man says to Jill, do you notice that Scotty doesn't need mods since no one dislikes him enough to troll? Not even the sex bots. Oh, no, we've had sex bots before. I am a sex bot. That's why they don't bother me. They're like, nah, he'll just click and subscribe.
That's why we love Canadian Spider-Man.
And Cinema Gulp says, no, don't apologize. You guys are super kind for talking about the CG cut. Thank you. No, thank you for putting it all together, man. It was a treat to be able to see that. And let me just see if I missed anybody in the chat that needs an ahoy and a hello. I did say hello to Son of a Red Shirt, Stephen Ransom, Jill, of course. Dave, thank you for being here. Skogly Yotun, thank you for being here with a cheers. Appreciate the cheers. And thank you again, and also for Ashley Lynn. This is a short one, unless you guys had anything that you wanted to add. Simply because this is going to be a twofer. I think this is the only. Is this the only Tarantino that got a sequel?
Yeah, the only
Technically, yes.
Yeah.
And an ahoy to Edge of Time, my compatriot from the Battle of Greenland. Thank you for being here.
He says no one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
It's true. But yeah, I don't mean to run with the brevity. Hopefully we do get my internet issues switched up so you can see my smiling snaggletooth again. And we'll be back again next week to talk about Kill Bill Volume 2. And then you can not only watch Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 back to back, but also our reviews. But before we go, I do want to refer to Jill, who has said that after this show, go check out Clobberin' Times and his Wildcard Wednesdays that is going on. If you are listening in the rerun, thank you so much. And feel free to go and check out Clobberin' Times channel, which has been a blast going over his comic book, pop culture, and Star Trek reviews on Saturday nights. Fantastic channel and fantastic gentleman with a great fan base and community over there. Phil, where can we find you and your fantastic pop culture knowledge and community fan base?
You can find me on my channel, Black Hole Power, as it says on the screen, and I usually stream every Friday nights, 10:30 Central Time. So see everybody there. We got some good stuff planned.
And Kat, where do you haunt the internets?
Here every Wednesday on Twitter and Instagram at SlySnide, and every second and fourth Sunday of the month, I co-host the Unifying Force on the Virtual Cantina Network, except for this Sunday because my two co-hosts are going to be off traveling to Comic-Con type places. But yeah, and we're going to be probably covering Andor in the next month, but then this video is going to be available forever, so you could watch our whole playlist and stuff. And I'm here every Wednesday.
And yeah, I'm here with you every Wednesday. Thursdays we've been doing with Jill, Antiderivative Jill, and I have been covering the original series of Quantum Leap. We started last week with the first 2 episodes, and we're going to be continuing on with that instead of watching the new one. Cam's Crash Course is here. Hello, everyone. Great show. Thank you so much, Cam, for being here. Yeah, as I said, I'm over on Antiderivative Jill's channel on Tuesdays for the original series reviews. Next week is going to be The Naked Time. But there is so far we've covered a bunch of the Star Treks in production order, and then also there's a hangout that she does on Fridays, the Plomeek Tea Time. And also I've been able to go and hang out on Pop Culture Curators channel on Monday nights. Go check him out, and we've been covering the animated series, and so that's a blast. But yeah, we're all over the internet. You can't shake us. We're like bad pennies.
When do y'all sleep, man?
You know, sometimes during shows, you never know. But thanks. Are you guys anything else, or do you guys want to go grab a taco?
Go grab some tacos.
Thanks for having me, guys. This was a blast. Look forward to next week. So.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to having you back. All right. Well, thank you again, and thank you so much, Cinema Gulp, for your very generous support of the channel. We do appreciate it. If you have the means and the desire, we would appreciate the support to help keep the lights on. If not, thank you so much for being here, and I guess we'll see you next week. Thanks again.